What if I told you that right now, there are places in the world where simply being a Muslim could put your life at risk? Countries where your faith isn't just a personal choice, but a reason to be targeted. In 2025, the situation for Muslims is growing more precarious in several nations. What's happening in these countries? Why is the world turning a blind eye to the growing dangers? Stay with me because today, I'm revealing the 7 nations where Muslims are facing escalating risks. And trust me, number 3 is something you need to hear. By the end, number 1 might change everything you thought you knew about religious freedom in the modern world. Let's dive in. Starting at number 7, India. India is known for its vibrant culture, diversity, and rich traditions, but in recent years it's become increasingly dangerous for Muslims. Radical Hindu nationalist forces have been gaining ground, and attacks on Muslim communities have become more frequent. In 2020, the Delhi riots saw hundreds of Muslims being killed and thousands displaced. Muslim women have been attacked for wearing hijabs in public, and businesses are being targeted simply for being Muslim-owned. The rise of the BJP government under Prime Minister Narendra Modi has fueled anti-Muslim rhetoric, making it difficult for Muslims to practice their faith openly. But what makes the situation even more dangerous is the national citizenship law, which many fear could make millions of Muslims stateless. The fear is palpable. Muslims in India are facing rising threats in a country that was once home to one of the largest Muslim populations in the world. Next, China. The situation for Uyghur Muslims in China is no secret. The Chinese government has been systematically persecuting Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang region for years now. Reports of mass detentions in concentration camps, forced sterilization, and systematic surveillance of Muslims have made headlines across the globe. But it's not just the Uyghurs. Any Muslim in China faces intense scrutiny and punishment. Mosques are being torn down, religious texts are being burned, and Muslims who speak out against the government are disappearing. The Uyghur situation is a global human rights crisis, but the Chinese government denies these atrocities. Thousands of Uyghur Muslims are being forced into so-called re-education camps, where they are subjected to forced labor, indoctrination, and torture. In Xinjiang, Muslims are no longer free to practice their faith without facing severe punishment, making China one of the most dangerous countries in the world for Muslims. At number 5, we have Myanmar. The situation for Muslims in Myanmar, particularly the Rohingya community, is one of the most heart-wrenching stories of the last decade. Myanmar's military has waged a campaign of ethnic cleansing against the Rohingya, who are largely Muslim. In 2017, more than 700,000 Rohingya Muslims fled Myanmar to escape genocide. Many of them were subjected to violent attacks, including mass killings, rapes, and forced displacement. Despite the international outcry, the violence hasn't stopped. The Rohingya continue to live in refugee camps across Bangladesh, but even there, they face ongoing discrimination and mistreatment. In Myanmar, Muslims are not just oppressed, they are fighting for their very survival, with the government and military doing everything in their power to erase their existence. This is a community with no safe haven, and a future clouded by fear. Now, let's talk about France. France has long been viewed as a country that champions liberty and secularism, but in recent years, it's become, honestly, increasingly dangerous for Muslims. France is home to the largest Muslim population in Europe, and while Muslims in France have contributed immensely to the country's culture and economy, the growing wave of Islamophobia is undeniable. In 2020, the Charlie Hebdo attacks and the subsequent protests sparked a wave of anti-Muslim rhetoric across the country. Muslims in France face increasing restrictions on their religious practices, especially when it comes to wearing the hijab or burkini. In 2021, the French government introduced a separatism bill, which critics argue disproportionately targets Muslim communities. Mosques have been closed down, and Muslim organizations face increasing pressure. France has long been a place of refuge for many, but for Muslims, it is becoming a land of rising hostility and division. At number 3, Egypt. Egypt is the heart of the Islamic world, with its rich history and culture. However, the situation for Muslim dissenters and activists has become increasingly dangerous. In recent years, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has cracked down on anyone who challenges his government, including moderate Muslims. The Egyptian regime has targeted Islamic activists, religious leaders, and even university students for their political and religious views. Even though the country's majority population is Muslim, those who dare to speak out are at great risk. Moderate Muslims, journalists, and human rights defenders are being detained, tortured, or even killed for opposing the regime. This crackdown has stifled religious freedoms and led to the widespread persecution of Muslims who dare to speak up or practice their faith freely. What was once the cradle of Islamic civilization is now dangerous territory for those who value religious expression. Next, Saudi Arabia. As the birthplace of Islam and home to its two holiest cities, Mecca and Medina, Saudi Arabia has long been regarded as a place where Muslims could find safety and spiritual refuge. But over the years, Saudi Arabia has turned into a highly repressive regime, cracking down on any form of religious dissent. While the kingdom has made significant strides to modernize its economy and public services, it has simultaneously suppressed religious freedoms, particularly for those Muslims who do not conform to the Wahhabi interpretation of Islam. Muslims who engage in activities that are seen as critical of the government or the state-approved version of Islam face imprisonment, torture, and even execution. Muslims who attempt to celebrate religious holidays in non-traditional ways or promote reform are targeted by the regime. For Muslims living in Saudi Arabia, the oppression is not just political, it's a threat to their faith and safety. And at number 1, Israel. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has made the region a volatile and dangerous place for Muslims. Muslims in the occupied territories face constant military occupation, displacement, and systematic oppression. In addition to the military checkpoints, restrictions on movement, and limited access to essential services, Muslims in Palestine are often subject to attacks from Israeli settlers and forces. Despite being Muslim-majority regions, areas like Gaza and the West Bank are places where Muslims are living under constant siege. The Israeli government enforces policies that severely restrict religious freedom, and the violence faced by Palestinians is often ignored by the international community. For Muslims in the region, every day is an existential fight for their faith and their freedom. The situation for Muslims in these countries is alarming, and the risks they face are rising by the day. From state-sanctioned violence to extremist groups, Muslims around the world are fighting for their right to worship and live freely. We can no longer stay silent about their suffering. Share this video, spread the word, and let's raise awareness. Let's make sure the world doesn't ignore the rising danger Muslims face. Drop a comment below. Which country shocked you the most? And don't forget to like and subscribe for more vital updates. Together we can make a difference. Stay informed, stay united, and most importantly, stay faithful.